Welcome to Death Valley National Park. I'm super happy to be back here after 2 years. Last time I was here was in February 2022, and I was doing some winter Milky Way astrophotography. I'm back now this year to run some astrophotography workshops. So for the last couple of weeks, I've been running some trips here to shoot the winter Milky Way under very special conditions. We had a lot of clouds, a lot of rain, and Death Valley looks like a very different place now. Basically, everything has been flooded since last August. And over the last 5 days, we got even more rain, more clouds, and the park looks really, really different from 2 years ago. Actually, the place I was shooting, the Cotomol Basin, is no longer accessible. Right now, it's a lake. Same with the Badwater Basin. The Badwater Basin, which is where I'm right now, is the lowest place in North America. It's at the moment flooded. There's a lake called Lake Manly, and the plan for now is to photograph the winter arch of the Milky Way using a tracker, the Benro Polaris, with these beautiful reflections and hopefully with nice conditions. And the plan now is to do some scouting. During the workshops over the previous days, I was with the groups in the Manly Lake, and we had some great conditions, clear skies, reflections. But the lake grew a lot. Some of the participants took incredible images, like these ones that you can see from Hiram and Philip. But the lake has been growing a lot, and it's very difficult to get to that spot. So I need to scout a different location. I'm in the Badwater Basin, and the goal is to find a place where I can have reflections, a nice area to leave my camera gear, and also some interesting compositions. So I'm gonna be scouting for the next couple of hours, and we'll see what we can find. I am full of mud, but I am very, very happy. I found an incredible spot here in Lake Manly. This is what I was looking for, a place of a lake with a beach where I have a beautiful access, reflections, the Panamint mountain range in the background, and a place protected from the wind. That's something very, very important for reflections. Just a magical place. As I said, on the previous days, the main area of the lake is full of water, more people coming, and just to be in a more quiet place with a better access area, I think that this is going to be a better place. Conditions for tonight are looking great so far. So we have no wind, no clouds, maybe a few high clouds at the end of the night, but those can give us some beautiful brightness and soft light in the stars. It looks like a great night for astro, a bit chilly. As you know, Death Valley can go from very hot to very cold in the night. And yeah, nice time to get everything ready. I'm going to show you my plan for tonight, which is shooting the winter arch of the Milky Way over the Panamint Range. Here we have Telescope Peak in the middle. It's the highest peak in Death Valley, 11,000 feet. Beautiful mountain, creating that symmetry in the middle with a higher peak, and then all the other peaks receding in the horizon. The plan now is to shoot the winter Milky Way arch, starting from the north to the south, with the center looking west. From the north, we'll have beautiful constellations like Cassiopeia, nebula like California. Then we'll have Orion, of course, which is the main protagonist. The Pleiades, Taurus, Gemini. So beautiful objects. I love the winter arch. It's actually right now my favorite target in the northern hemisphere. And I've been taking those images for a long time, but never without reflection. So it's gonna be my first time doing reflections and the winter arch. It's gonna be a very challenging image. I'm just anticipating a lot of trouble and technical challenges, both now in the field and later in post. But I have a few ideas in mind that I think that I can work out. I'll explain better everything, what gear I'm gonna use, tripods, trackers. For now, I'm gonna just chill out, relax, enjoy the sunset, and I'll see you later. So I'm back at the Backwater Basin, Lake Manly behind me, clear night, no wind at all, which is very exciting, and ready for adventure. So yeah, today I want to show you my setup, my plan, and especially how I work in the field at the moment, the tracker that I use, the camera, and how I organize my shootings. It's a very special case because we have a challenging image with a reflection and a setting Milky Way, winter Milky Way arch. So there are a few things to consider, but I want to walk you through all the steps and everything that I do in the field to capture those images. And the best I shoot at the moment is with 2 full setups. This means having 2 cameras, 2 tripods, and double everything. That's roughly 80 to 90% of my images at the moment. There are some situations where I still take only 1 tripod, 1 tracker, 1 camera to do everything. But when I can, especially if it's not like a very long hike, I try to do everything with 2 setups. There are many reasons for this that I will explain later. But just to introduce you to the gear, my base setup, which is the one that is recording, it's a Photo T3640cm tripod, which you can see a review here. Very sturdy tripod that I've been using for years. I love it. It's my main tripod for shooting at night. On top of that is my Sony A1. That's my main camera for foregrounds. I'll explain later the difference. But yes, Sony A1, high megapixel, very nice low light performance. That's all for my foreground. And for lenses, for the foreground, I usually shoot either with a 14 1.8 or with a Sony 20 1.8. In some rare cases, I use the 35 1.4, but that's mainly for the sky. On my other setup, the one I use for the sky, which is right here, I got the Photo T2840CK. That's my main travel tripod. Sometimes when there's no wind, like tonight, this is the tripod I use for my Polaris. For different reasons, it depends on the night and the situation. But yeah, I use these 2 Photo tripods interchangeably, depending on the conditions. Then, on my camera is a Sony A7 III Astro modified. I have this camera converted by Spencer's camera. And it's the main camera I use for Astro. I've been using this camera over the last 2 years. So all my images taken in recent years has been with this camera. I just love it. It's a phenomenal camera. Even though it's still a little bit old, the low light performance is just incredible. Lenses for shooting at night, mainly 20mm 1.8, 35mm 1.4. Those are the 2 lenses I use in almost 90% of the situations. Sometimes if I'm in a rush or there's like a big panel, I can use the 14 1.8. But at the moment, 20 or 35, those are my go-to lenses for the sky. And now the protagonist for tonight is the Benro Polaris. This little toy has been in my camera bag for a little bit of a year and a half. I've been for about 2 years shooting almost, interchangeably with the Polaris and the Ioptron Skyguider Pro. It's a tracker I still have and I love. It's a great tracker. But with time, as with Benro fixing those little bugs and issues that we had at the beginning, this has become my main tracker. It's the one I've been using purely in 2023. So all my images from last year, taken all over the world, in the Peruvian Andes, those beautiful panoramas in very high altitude, or in New Zealand, or in Australia. So all my images over the last year has been taken with this tracker. And yeah, just a very basic, simple setup that I will explain now. At this point, you might be asking why you're using 2 cameras, what's the reason of this, carrying double gear in the field? Well, the main reason is because the Benro Polaris can automate almost anything. Single shots, stacking, and especially something that I really love, which is track panoramas. You can basically automate anything in the field with this tracker, and that's what I do. I basically set up my tracker, do my sky, and I leave the tracker working alone. At the same time, simultaneously, I put my tripod back to back or very close, and I do my foreground. This allows me to have so much extra time that I can take much cleaner images, and when I'm doing my foregrounds, I can take longer exposures, I can do focus stacking when it's necessary, and just basically capture more quality. Also, sometimes I finish in half the time, so I don't have to spend 1-2 hours doing my sky and then 1 hour doing my foreground. I can finish earlier. And most importantly, in some situations like today, I can capture everything at the same time. So for example, now I can set up my sky with my tracker, with my Benro, do the sky automatically, and at the same time, capture the reflection here in the field. That allows me to have exactly the same image because, as you know, the sky is moving very fast and the reflection is also moving. So I can get everything, all the images matching perfectly at the same time. So for today, my plan is to start setting up the Benro. We're going to do first the setup for the sky. It's going to be a panorama of the winter arch of Orion. It's going to be a 20mm 1.8 focal length for this shot. That's usually what I do when there is a high arch. Right now the arch is maybe about 70 degrees, which is still pretty high. So I'm going to set up my tracker to do my sky. And then I will start doing my first reflection at 14mm. So yeah, let's jump into now the Benro Polaris. Let's start with the first panel for the sky. I'm going to show you the process to capture this automatic panorama. And now, before we get started, couple of things. First, this is the basic gear that Benro includes with the tracker. The only difference that doesn't include is, of course, the ATOL color ring that I use to switch from horizontal to vertical. There are many color rings in the market at the moment, but I highly recommend having one of these for this tracker. The other thing is that with Benro, and in my experience, I've been teaching numerous workshops with a lot of Benro Polaris, so probably over 50-60 Benros and different cameras. And honestly, over 90% of the issues are human errors and just problems that we do in the field because we don't have the knowledge, the experience, or we just do things wrong. I'm not saying that they are not manufacturing problems, because there are. There are some that you have to take into account, but still, 90% of the problems are user error, and there are 3 basic steps that you have to do to make sure that the tracker is working fine and you avoid any kind of problems. This is going to be a summary, but if you want to dive more into this, I highly recommend checking my Benro Polaris course, where I explain everything in a very long course with all the details, troubleshooting, problems you can find, recommendations, best practices, and many more things. So now, to get started with the Benro, first thing I'm going to do is turn the tracker on, which is pressing here on the on button. So we do 1 short click and then 1 longer click until we hear the 3 beeps. So now it's coming up. I'm going to remove my lens cap. And now my Benro Polaris is on. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to open my Benro Polaris app. And here, it will detect my device. Here I will see my number on my tracker. I just click here. It creates a Wi-Fi hotspot and it automatically connects here. Once you connect your camera, because now my camera is off, you'll start seeing all the information in the display. So I'm going to turn my camera on. So now my camera is on and it connects automatically, and it's actually a very quick process. And this is the main menu that I see. I'm just checking now the preview, so whatever I see in my camera, I can see it here. And now we're going to do the 3 basic steps that we always have to do with the Benro Polaris. First, I'm going to open my aperture so we can see better in the field. And now, before I touch anything, I'm just in the normal basic module of the Benro. What I do is basically leveling the tracker. This means double tapping both joysticks. You can do it one and the other or simultaneously, like I'm doing here. Yep, double tap. And the Benro will automatically go to the level position. That means that the altitude and azimuth are completely 0 and everything is leveled here. Before you do this, make sure the Benro is right attached to your head, of course. We don't want to have any accidents. But now my Benro is going to the 0 position. And now, next thing I do, I basically click here on the top right corner or the camera icon, and I'm gonna click on the Astro module. As soon as I click, you'll find that the tracker will ask to calibrate, and you'll see this screen with a drawing where it tells you to put your camera and your phone by the tracker. Now, one tip, sometimes in some smartphones you can see the drawing upside down, but this is very simple. Wherever your lens is facing, your camera and your lens, make sure your camera and your phone is in the opposite direction. So the top of your phone is gonna be on the opposite direction to the lens and to the motors. So whenever you do it, you just put it on the side of the tracker. In this case, it will be like this here on the side, but on this side here, just follow the indications on the drawing. I put it there, hit calibrate, and now in 1 second, yeah, calibration successful. I hit confirm, and now my calibration is done. Now by default, you'll see a bunch of constellations and stars, but you can basically turn them off here in this panel on the left, and that way you will see better everything in your screen. Next thing to do, and this is the third and last step, which is very simple, is the go-to function. This tracker doesn't polar align the same as a mechanical tracker, so I don't have to look for Polaris, and I have to maintain the tracker in the same position all the time. This tracker uses GPS, so as soon as my tripod legs are stable and I don't move anything here, the tracker can move in any direction and it will be perfectly aligned. That's the magic of the Benro, and that's what the tracker uses for working. So now I have to select an object in the sky. It can be stars, planets, it can be constellations, it can be many things. Locate it in the sky, go there, confirm, and then my polar alignment will be done for the entire night, which is something great. So what I'm gonna do now is basically look at the sky. I have many bright stars like Rigel, Betelgeuse, we have Sirius, and also Jupiter. Jupiter is very bright in the sky at the moment, so I think I'm gonna use Jupiter. So we're gonna go to Jupiter, and to see this better, I'm gonna turn the lights on my camera for now, so I can show you everything here in the app. And now I have turned the lights down a little bit so we can see better in the screen. But basically, when I click here on the middle icon with the star and the magnifying glass, I can type here my go-to object, so you can find Jupiter here in the screen, or I can just type it here on the magnifying glass on top on the search module. So I just click Jupiter, go to, and the tracker will go automatically there. So now you can see how the tracker is moving. And as you see in the screen, it's actually very, very close. It's not right in the spot, but it's something that we have to fix now. Usually the tracker doesn't go 100% to the spot, but manually we need to bring the star closer to the frame. Sometimes you will see that the screen is super dark and you don't see anything. In that case, I recommend using a fast lens, like a 1.4, 1.8, even if you plan to switch your lens later. But just for this process, you need to see the stars. And in some cameras and some models, some lenses, it can be difficult to see the screen. Here I can see clearly. With Sony, I had the bright monitoring, which is a great option. So I press here, and now everything becomes almost daylight. This is one of my favorite functions in Sony cameras. If you're not sure about the object, one very useful tip is to use a laser, and that way I can flash my laser at Jupiter on my object. And here in the screen, you will clearly see your target. So there I can see and confirm, okay, that star is Jupiter. Now I can pinch to zoom in, move more to the left, and just leave it on the right spot. Here, if you double press the joysticks, you can actually do more fine-tune adjustments. So the tracker moves slowly. Or I can just exit and just bring it there as close as possible with the target. Okay, that's fine. I hit confirm. And now it says alignment successful and tracking enabled. So now you will see the start tracking button on the right, bottom right corner. At this point is when I focus my lens. Some people do it at the beginning. Make sure your lens is barely in focus so you can see the stars. Mine is almost in focus, so I can just go here, zoom in a little bit more, and using here my camera, I'm gonna focus. Yeah, that seems to be alright. And now next thing, I'm gonna take a test shot. To take a test shot, I'm gonna go to Orion to see how it looks. Basically using the left joystick, up and down, left and right, I can move my camera to the right. I'm gonna actually put the starlight mode so you can see better. Yep, that's looking great. I can see even the nebula almost from here. And now I'm gonna hit, well, first of all, set your settings. I'm gonna start with a test shot, which is gonna be about 2 minutes. My aperture is gonna be closing to f2.2. My ISO is gonna be 1250. And now once I'm done, I'm gonna hit start tracking. And after 4 to 5 seconds, it will start automatically just rotating. And now we'll be tracking. Now it's super simple. I'm gonna take a test shot. Just slide the shooting button up. And the tracker will start shooting automatically. Now I can either check my image on camera, so I can play my image here and just check the zoom. Or the other thing I can do is I can go to the app, top right corner, play. And here I can select my image and now download to my local images, and it will be automatically transferred to my gallery. If I go, I can see the image in full resolution, so I can zoom in, see the detail, see how is the tracking going, see how's it looking. Now I'm gonna start doing my panel. And for doing my panorama, I'm gonna turn on the bright monitoring again, so I can see the screen. I'm gonna include a little bit of foreground, so I'm gonna tilt just above the horizon line, and I can see it on the screen here, or I can see it here in my camera, so I can see how it's looking. Yeah, maybe a little bit further down. And now for capturing my panorama, what I'm going to do is going to the Panorama Pro mode. There are 2 different modes. The one I use is the Pro mode, which is on the right side. Here I select my sensor size, full frame, focal length, it's gonna be at 20mm. Portrait mode, overlap is 50% for nighttime panoramas. And now I'll move to the right side to tell the Polaris where should I start my panorama. For this, if you don't see your screen fine here, I recommend seeing the silhouette of the sky in the camera. About there is gonna be my start point. So I'm gonna hit start. As soon as I move to the left, it will tell me to end. So I need to tell the Polaris where to end the panorama. I usually check here if I have enough space in the middle, on top of the panel. I think I can fit everything in 1 row, but to be on the safe side, I'm gonna do 2 rows. So I go all the way to the left. Yeah, right now I can see on the bottom left corner the number of images. So right now it's 7 images with the degrees of overlap, which is 31 degrees, and 1 row. That will be 7 to 12, 15 minutes. If I want to do 2 rows, I just tilt up. On the right side, you can see here the field of view. So right now I'm capturing 246 degrees, which is a very wide panel. And vertically, I have about 42 degrees. So that should be fine. Once it's ready, I hit end. And now just start tracking. Don't forget that button, it's very important. Once the trackers are engaged, I hit the shooting button. And now my Polaris is going to the start position. It's actually going in this direction because it's shorter. It will go to my first spot, take the first image, and from there, it will keep shooting. So I'll leave this running for a while, and then I will be showing you the results. Right now, my Polaris is taking the first image. After this, it will move automatically to the next, and then you will get to the end, tilt up, and come back to the beginning. And that way, there are about 14 images left. So in about half an hour, I can leave my phone here or just take it with me and recheck again. Now it's time to do my foreground, as I said. So I'm gonna grab this camera, which is filming, do my foreground, and in about half an hour, I'll be back and I'll have my 2 images ready. So yeah, let's see how it happens, and then I will show you the result. Well, it's been an incredible session with clear skies, with reflections, with no wind. I couldn't ask for better conditions, to be honest. The first panorama thing with the 20mm, it was 2 rows because it was still very high in the sky. The reflection at the beginning was a little bit blurry because there was a light breeze. But after that, around 11:30, when it was the prime time for the Milky Way arch, all conditions aligned. The light breeze stopped. Reflection was absolutely perfect. And the arch was enough for 1 row with a 20mm. So I put the Benro tracking, 20mm, 1 row to capture the entire arch, shooting for 2 minutes per frame in order to capture more details, more colors, and ISO 1250, aperture 2.2. So great settings. I saw a lot of detail, a lot of color, which was great. Simultaneously, I was shooting with the Sony 14 1.8. I was shooting from the shoreline here in the lake, again capturing those beautiful reflections. For those images, the technique was shooting different frames, stacking different frames per panel. So in this case, I was stacking 6 images in each frame. Each image was 8 seconds, ISO 8000 and 1.8. As you see, capturing a lot of light with a wide aperture, short exposures, otherwise the reflection will be gone, and a high ISO in order to get a better exposure. Stacking all those images, even if each individual frame looks a little bit dark, it gives you more detail and especially pinpoint stars. So that was the technique. Everything was working seamlessly with the Benro, with the camera. Thankfully, nothing fell into the bad water, so all the gear is safe. And yeah, it's been an incredible session. Honestly, I couldn't be happier using this setup. Before, I was happy with my Iotron and my track panorama setup. There was actually a video on my YouTube channel from Death Valley 2 years ago using that setup. All my images were great, but the amount of gear that I had to use was a lot, using L brackets, nodulus lights, a lot of camera gear, a lot of weight. And when I was traveling so much, it became very cumbersome. The Benro is super compact, super light, everything matches here, not many cables, not many attachments. So I'm very happy with this rig. Again, I've been using this for quite some time. I've been working with people in the field using this tracker. And even though some people still get frustrated because your first reaction when you get the Benro is excitement, second is frustration, and then when you overcome those problems, you load this tracker again. And if you want to learn all the in and outs and how to extract the full potential of the Benro Polaris tracker, make sure you check my Benro Polaris course because there's a ton of information there, videos, tutorials, and everything you need to make the most of this tracker. Also, you want to learn with me in the field, you can join me in one of my workshops in Death Valley or in any other place. I'll be more than happy to help. And of course, if you need anything, make sure you check Capture the Atlas. Thank you very much for watching this video. Like, subscribe, and see you under the stars.